Okay, so
Yeah.
I want you to picture the ultimate God mode scenario.
Okay.
Imagine you have this dashboard in front of you that just controls reality. You want it to rain, you press a button.
You want the stock market to hit an all-time high. You just slide a lever.
Exactly. You want eternal youth, a body made of gold, and literally zero enemies because you've crushed them all.
Done.
It's the ultimate fantasy, right? It's what every strategy game and every ambitious career path is secretly aiming for. Total dominion. But here's the trillion-dollar question, the one that kind of ruins the fantasy. If you actually had all of that,
Yeah.
would you finally be okay?
Would you be satisfied?
Yeah. Or would you just be a miserable person with a really, really nice view?
Well, that's the cliffhanger most of us never get to answer, right? Because we spend our whole lives just trying to get to the first rung of the ladder.
True.
But the sources we're diving into today, and these are heavy-hitting ancient Vedic texts from the Srimad Bhagavatam, they don't treat this as a hypothetical.
No, they treat it as a case study. And it is a wild one. We're looking at a stack of documents here. We've got the absolute truth and origin of all creation, the dominion and insatiability of Hiraṇyakaśipu.
And the Tyrant and the Saint.
Right, and these aren't just, dry philosophy papers. They wrap some incredibly deep critiques of modern civilization inside this really dramatic story about a demon king and his saintly son.
And demon here doesn't just mean a monster with horns. It refers to a specific mentality,
Yeah.
a specific way of viewing the world. We're going to see two archetypes go head-to-head.
Hiraṇyakaśipu, the ultimate materialist.
Who conquers the external world, and then his son, Prahlada, the ultimate spiritualist who conquers the internal world.
It's like Succession meets The Matrix, but, set in the cosmos.
Yeah.
But before we get to all the family drama, we have to lay down the ground rules of this universe. Because the way these texts define reality is, it's controversial.
It challenges everything we take for granted. The first concept we need to unpack is what the source calls the mirage. The text, specifically the absolute truth one, argues that what we call real life, the economy, the buildings, our bodies, is like a mirage in the desert.
Okay, but hold on. I've heard this whole, life is an illusion thing before.
Right.
And I don't know, it always feels a bit like a cop-out to me. I mean, if I stub my toe, it hurts. That feels pretty real.
Of course.
If I'm thirsty, I need water. A mirage doesn't really help me.
And that's exactly the point the text is making. It's not saying the world doesn't exist. A mirage exists. You can see it. But does it contain water?
No.
No. It just has the appearance of water. So the source argues that we are these thirsty creatures looking for satisfaction. That's the water. But we're looking for it in material things, which are just the reflection.
So you can chase the mirage forever, but you'll just die of thirst.
Precisely. It's a misidentification problem.
We're shopping in the wrong aisle.
Exactly. And they use another analogy that I think clarifies this perfectly. The gold mine versus the gold ring.
Or I saw this in the notes. Break that down for us.
Okay, so imagine a gold ring. It's made of gold, right?
Right.
Qualitatively, it is the exact same substance as the gold in the mine.
Okay, same stuff.
But quantitatively. The ring is tiny. The mine is vast. The text explains that the creation, us, the universe, is qualitatively one with the Creator. We share the same stuff, that same spiritual nature.
So we aren't the mine.
We are not the mine. We are the ring. And the problem, according to the source, is that we get obsessed with the ring, the temporary forms, these little products, and we completely forget the mine, the source of all the gold.
So we try to squeeze infinite happiness out of finite things.
And it never works.
Yeah.
Which explains why we're never satisfied, even when we get the ring.
Which, this leads to a section of the text that I found pretty spicy. It takes a direct shot at modern science. And usually when ancient texts critique science, it's about, evolution or the age of the Earth. This was about satellites.
It's a fascinating argument about logic and agency. The text brings up the satellite analogy to counter atheism. It says, look at a satellite in orbit.
Right.
It's a complex machine. It's hovering perfectly. It's transmitting data. Does anyone on Earth really believe that the satellite just launched itself or that it's floating there by accident?
Obviously not. There's a team of engineers at NASA or SpaceX controlling it.
Right. Even if you can't see the engineers, you infer their existence because of the intelligent behavior of the machine.
Okay.
So the Vedic argument is, Why do we look at the universe, which is infinitely more complex than a satellite, and just assume it's running on autopilot?
So the logic is, if a tin can needs a controller, a solar system definitely needs one.
Exactly. It asserts there is a chief engineer behind the laws of nature. But then it goes a step further and critiques the instrumentation of modern science, and this is where we get to the moon.
Oh man, the craters and dust debate, this really stopped me in my tracks.
It's a huge collision of worldviews.
So the text says that when scientists look at the moon, they see a barren rock. But the Vedic view sees a radiant, heavenly planet with gardens and life. But, I mean, play devil's advocate here. We've sent rovers, we have photos, we know it's dust and rocks. Is the text just saying, ignore your eyes?
Not ignore, but maybe doubt the limits.
The argument isn't that the rovers are lying, it's that they are limited. Think of it like this. If you tune a radio to a specific frequency, you hear jazz. If you don't have the right receiver, you just hear static. The text argues that our human senses and our metal instruments are tuned to a very narrow, very gross frequency of reality.
So we're seeing the static, the dust and rocks, but we're missing the music.
Exactly. The source claims that the radiant dimension of the moon is there, but it's subtle. It requires a different kind of vision spiritual qualification, they call it, to access.
It's challenging the arrogance of saying, if I can't measure it with my ruler, it doesn't exist.
Right. It suggests we are looking at a high-definition universe through a keyhole.
Okay, so that sets the stage. We're living in a world that's a mirage, relying on senses that are basically broken radios.
Thinking we're the main characters. And into this setup enters our protagonist, or I guess our antagonist, Hiraṇyakaśipu.
The Tyrant.
And this guy. He doesn't just want to understand the universe, he wants to own it, and he puts in the work. The text describes these insane austerities he performs. He's standing on his tiptoes for thousands of years.
It represents the sheer force of will. He disciplines his body to the point of near death just to generate power. And it works. He pleases the creator, Lord Brahma, and gets these benedictions. He gets a lustrous golden body.
He becomes practically immortal, and once he has that power, he just goes on a spree. He conquers the three worlds. But I want to talk about the specificity of his control.
Yeah.
He doesn't just invade countries. He privatizes the laws of nature.
It's absolute totalitarianism. He usurps the positions of the demigods.
Yeah.
So in the Vedic cosmos, specific beings are in charge of specific elements. Indra controls the rain. Vayu controls the air.
Agni, the fire.
And Hiraṇyakaśipu just kicks them out and takes their seats.
So if you want it to rain, you don't pray to the rain god anymore. You file a request with Hiraṇyakaśipu.
He's the CEO of the climate. The text says he could make the wind blow or the fire burn simply by furrowing his eyebrow.
And let's talk about his headquarters. He moves into Indra's palace. The description in the source is just HGTV on steroids.
It's sensory overload. Steps made of coral, floors paved with emeralds, walls of crystal, canopies draped with pearls and rubies.
The text mentions the Nandana Gardens, these celestial pleasure grounds. It's designed to be the ultimate environment for enjoyment.
He has it all.
The GDP of the galaxy, the power of a god, the best real estate in existence. And this is where the text pivots. This is the application to today, because according to the narrative, how's he feeling?
He is miserable. The Sanskrit word used is natupyad. He was not satisfied.
Wait, really? He controls the weather and he's still grumpy?
Worse than grumpy, he's in a state of constant anxiety and rage, and the diagnosis the text gives is brilliant. It calls him a Jinendriya.
A Jitendriya? What does that mean?
It means one who has not conquered his senses.
That is ironic. He conquered the universe, but he couldn't conquer his own senses.
And that is the crux of the critique. The source explicitly links this to modern civilization. Think about it. We have conquered the external world. We have air conditioning, the internet. We can fly across oceans. We have emerald floors, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
But are we satisfied?
I mean, look at anxiety rates, look at consumption. We always need the new phone, the better car.
That's the Edutenzia trap. The text argues that because we are servants of our senses, the senses act like a fire.
Right.
You feed a fire with fuel, in Hiraṇyakaśipu's case, with absolute power and luxury. Does the fire say, thanks, I'm full?
No, it gets bigger, it burns hotter.
Exactly. His desire for more was insatiable. He was drinking strong-smelling wines. His eyes were rolling in anger. He was a slave to his own urges.
It's a powerful statement. External conquest cannot fill an internal void.
You can't solve a spiritual problem with a material solution.
So you have this guy sitting on a ruby throne, totally miserable, and then right under his nose in his own palace lives his son, Prahlada.
And Prahlada is the total opposite. The contrast is so deliberate. Hiraṇyakaśipu is the Titan. Prahlada is described as a Mahatma, a great soul.
And the first thing the text notes about him is that he has nirvara, no enemies.
Which is funny because his dad is the enemy.
Yeah.
But Prahlada doesn't see him that way. The source breaks down his character beautifully. It says he treats respectable people like a servant, the poor like a father, and his equals like a brother.
And he's totally detached from all the status symbols his father built. Education, riches, aristocracy.
Prahlada couldn't care less.
But he's not just detached, is he? He's not just sitting in a corner practicing stoicism. He's happy.
He's ecstatic. Because while Hiraṇyakaśipu is chasing the mirage, Prahlada has found the water. The text describes his symptoms of Krishna consciousness. He's so internally connected to the Supreme Friend that he sometimes laughs or cries or dances.
Or just stands there with his hair standing on end.
Yeah, he's tripping on divinity.
I love the analogy the text used for him, the baby.
It's so relatable. The source compares him to a small child on a mother's lap. Think about a baby. Does the baby worry about the mortgage?
No.
Does the baby worry about where dinner is coming from? No. The baby just has this implicit trust. The baby knows the parent is there. Prahlada moves through the world, even a world controlled by his demon father, with that level of trust in the Supreme.
And that creates resilience.
It creates fearlessness. The text argues that this is the application for us today. If you base your security on your palace, your job, your bank account, your control, you are always one disaster away from panic.
Hiraṇyakaśipu was terrified of losing his power.
Right. But Prahlada wasn't afraid of anything because his shelter was internal.
But this isn't just a happy roommate situation. The father cannot stand this kid.
It challenges his entire existence. If Prahlada is happy without the emerald swords and the power, then Hiraṇyakasipu's whole life is a lie.
So the conflict starts. The father tries to kill the son. It gets dark fast.
It does. But notice the dynamic. The more the father attacks, the more he loses his composure. The source mentions a spiritual law here. When a powerful person offends a pure devotee, their power begins to dwindle.
It's like a slow leak in a tire.
It is. Hiraṇyakasipu is screaming, threatening, using all his weapons, and Prahlada is just remembering his friend.
And meanwhile, the demigods, the guys who got fired, are watching this from hiding.
They're terrified. They're basically waiting for the regime to collapse, looking for a savior.
And this brings us to one of my favorite analogies in the entire text, the dog's tail.
Yes. This was hilarious, but also kind of stinging.
Yeah.
The text says, imagine you are drowning in the ocean. You're desperate. You see a dog swimming past you. You think, aha, I'll grab the dog's tail and he'll pull me to shore.
I feel like that's a bad survival strategy.
It's fatal. The dog is struggling just as hard as you are. You're both going to drown. And the source applies this to our search for shelter. We try to find safety in material things, politicians, rich relatives, the demigods of our world. But the text argues that all of those things are also swimming in the ocean of time. They're also temporary.
So relying on the CEO, relying on the government, relying on your 401k, it's all grabbing the dog's tail.
In the ultimate sense, yes, because none of those things can stop death or time. The text says the only safe harbor is the Supreme Friend, the absolute truth. Everything else is just another swimmer.
So as we wrap this up, we're left with these two figures, the man who had everything and was empty, and the boy who had nothing and was full.
It really forces a hard audit of our own lives.
Yeah.
We were trained to be Hiraṇyakasipu. We were trained to build the palace, conquer the market, control the variables.
And the text isn't saying you shouldn't have a house or a job.
No, not at all. But it is asking, is that your reality?
Because if it is, you're chasing the mirage. You're licking the dry sand, hoping for water.
Exactly. The source suggests that our modern mental health crisis isn't because we don't have enough satellites or emerald floors. It's because we are spiritually dehydrated. We are ajitendriya.
There's one final detail from the source I want to land on. It mentions that Hiraṇyakasipu controlled all the planets, but he couldn't enter the Dhamma.
The spiritual places where the Lord is present.
He was locked out.
That's the final tragedy. He had the keys to the universe, but he was locked out of the sanctuary. He could go anywhere, but he couldn't go home.
And that's the provocative thought for today. We spend 80 years building our palaces, polishing the resume, renovating the kitchen, building the reputation. But in all that construction, are there sacred spaces inside us that we are completely neglecting?
Are we locking ourselves out of our own peace?
Because if you don't have that internal sanctuary, the palace is just a very expensive prison.
Something to think about the next time you're trying to control the weather in your own life.
Thanks for diving deep with us.
Thank you.